Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are drinking non-alcoholic beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
How are you?
I'm alright. I'm a bit tired. I feel a bit warm. We're at like the early evening of a very hot day.
Yes.
I feel like I haven't drunk enough water and
Same.
I'm feel a bit dishevelled.
Yes.
Look a bit dishevelled. My crisis haircut is progressing nicely.
Reaching crisis point. You've got a fly in your hair. We've just been to see the Tiny Sheeps and we had a really nice conversation with a couple of horses.
They were very friendly.
They were very friendly. Is it what are their names? Captain and...
Jess?
Jerry. Anyway, they're very lovely and we had a nice conversation. So, right then, what are you reading at the moment, Joe?
Oh my god, I am reading a series of books called The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan.
What book are you on now?
It's quite an extensive collection of books. I think it's like 11, maybe?
Okay.
Certainly double digits. It's either 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And I am reading The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden.
Nice.
Which is kind of fairy tales based on Russian folk tales, I think. I haven't got very far in yet. I keep falling asleep. Which is not a reflection on the book, more a reflection on me being tired. But I'm also reading nonfiction. I'm reading Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Right.
And also Don't Touch My Hair by Emma Dabiri, which is really interesting and it was recommended to me by Yinka. Hi, Yinka!
Hi, Yinka!
And it's just a really interesting... I'm not very far into it yet, but it's about black women's hair.
Okay.
Yeah. Because apparently, and you wouldn't think this would be a thing, but black women have to tell white people not to touch their hair. I know, right? It's like, that should not be a thing. What?
It shouldn't really be, yeah. Don't go around touching people's hair.
Just don't touch people without asking.
Touch people. It's weird.
And don't ask because it's weird. So anyway, so I'm reading that in my ongoing quest to be a better white person, basically, because we're recording this in the wake of riots happening in America.
We don't even know whether it's the wake yet. It might be the start.
Might even be, yeah.
Basically, America's on fire. The lights are out in the White House. People are being maced and beaten and trampled by horses and God knows what over there. It's just crazy.
Pretty fucking horrific. And I don't want to be just another liberal white voice flapping air. And so I'm learning shit and I'm getting stuff wrong and sticking my foot in my mouth and trying to, just trying not to be shit, you know?
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to say on that right now because I have a lot more educating to do. So, Quarantine Chronicles, what have we been doing? We have been having Eurovision parties online.
We have done that. That has been good fun.
We have been growing vegetables.
They are going really well. We've been basically eating... We're growing salad faster than we can eat it at the moment.
We have so much rocket and mizuna.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We've got massive lettuces bigger than my head.
Yeah.
Which is amazing and delicious. And
spring onions are doing well.
The onions are doing well. The courgettes are doing amazingly. And the tomatoes are rampaging around the greenhouse, which is really cool.
Yeah, and soon we're going to have courgettes and cucumbers and all that kind of stuff. Good.
Yes.
Peas are going well.
The peas are fascinating because they kind of feel their way out and...
Find things to hang on.
Yeah. And, good vegetabling. And painting my office as well. We've been painting the outside of my office in extreme heat.
Oh.
And so far we've got one wall done, which is kind of pathetic.
It's a bit of a pain in the arse because...
We're trying to do a coat a weekend, aren't we?
We started painting the office just after the office had been built. And it required like treatment and preserving and all kinds of good stuff, which makes sense. But by the time it came to paint, we'd already done like 3 or 4 coats. So we got most of a coat of paint done and there were bits we missed and bits we didn't do twice. And it was like, right, come on, let's just bloody do this. By which time the colour of paint that we started with is no longer available.
Well, no, it is. I just couldn't get a hold of it in lockdown.
So now we're going to have to do the whole thing twice in a different colour.
But the colour that I've chosen is really nice. I like it much better than the colour I had originally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the Cornish Beach Hut collection, and it's like a vanilla ice cream colour.
It's really vanilla-y.
But it's beautiful, isn't it? It's like really kind of yellowy, rich kind of.
It's nice.
Yeah, I love it.
But nobody really wants to paint an office in this heat twice.
No, sorry. Oh, we're also starting a new lockdown project because we would really like to be able to eat outside in a nice space. So we're getting a skip this week, aren't we?
The best we can do at the moment is kind of throw a blanket on the grass and go and sit out there. But we do have a yard at the back of the house, which could be quite nice.
Which could be nice, yeah. We're going to build a pizza oven and build a table and chairs, and we could bring our little brazier that our friend Charlie made for us.
Step one, really, though, is to stop treating it like a building site dump and get rid of the dumpy bags of rubble and the bits of timber and the pallets and the bits of fence and all of the accumulated detritus of the last 3 years.
Yes, 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. So we need to do that because we would like to be able to eat outside, because we keep walking through the village on the way to see the tiny sheeps and smelling other people's food that they're clearly eating outside and just being really resentful.
It's not fair. Selfish people.
So that is what we're doing. Anyway, we are talking about writing excuses. This is the Writing Excuses series. I believe it's number 3 in the series.
Well, you would know.
You would think, wouldn't you? Yeah.
So what's the excuse?
Right, the excuse, and normal caveat, maybe not excuses, but it sounds better than, writing excuses sounds better than totally legitimate reasons people give me for not writing their book.
Okay.
So, yeah. So this week's excuse, is, it's all on the internet for free. Why would anyone read a book that I wrote?
Okay.
So kind of a little bit related to last week, I guess, and a little bit related to next week as well. Last week we talked about, the week before last, because last week Susie was on the podcast.
Hi, Susie.
Hi, Susie. The week before that we were talking about how it's all been said before. Which it hasn't, actually. But even if it has, it doesn't matter. And if you're not sure why, go back and listen to episode 215. Yaha. This time, we're talking about why basically everything is on the internet for free.
Mm-hmm. What's the point? What's the point in writing a book?
Well, it's true, yes. I can find anything that I want to know on the internet. Google is amazing. It's a universe of facts and figures and stories and funny cat videos.
Other search engines are available. Bing, for example, can sometimes find something loosely related with the thing you wanted.
And Jeeves, and there are.
Jeeves, does that even exist anymore?
I don't know. I think so. Yeah, there are other search engines, and to be fair, there's having the entire search world controlled by one giant corporation is probably a bit problematic. I don't know what the answer to that is, because I do still want to find useful stuff. But yeah, anyway, so here is the thing. I can find anything I want on the internet, but I am a really messy browser.
Right.
My tabs mount up. I now have a thing called One Tab, which hides my shame.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember you once coming in and basically telling me off for having about 53 tabs open. And it slows your computer down as well, doesn't it? Having that many tabs open.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure it does anymore, to be honest.
Does it not? Anyway... But I found this thing called One Tab, and you just click a little button and it just shrinks them all down into like a series of links in one tab.
Right.
Which is great, because then I don't get like this, because I get really stressed when I look at all my tabs and I'm like, I've got all these things and I need to. It's like, no, I don't need to worry about losing what I was looking at, because it's in one tab, and one tab saves your history.
So do you not just end up with one tab with everything you've ever clicked on?
No, because it's really clever. Let me show you, Joe. This is going to be good.
Good radio.
Good radio. So it saves it for each day. So you can scroll down. It's like, last week I know that I was looking at a website about blah blah blah, and there it was.
Okay.
And that's useful, particularly. I'm doing some media research for what kind of stories people are reading and blah blah blah. And so I had a load of tabs open for Forbes and places like that. And I wanted to be able to find them again.
So by day.
Yeah. Anyway, so I can, when I Google for information, I basically open like 370 tabs or something, and then I freeze because there's just too much. I don't know where to start. And I will Google, say I want to find out about how to write a book. Mm-hmm. And even just on page 1 of Google, there's like 15 or 20 different sources to different websites, to different articles. And so I'm like, oh, well, that looks good, and that looks good, and oh, that one looks good. And before you know it, you've got 10 different tabs open, and it's like, that's a really overwhelming amount of information, all in a different place. And so when that happens, I will turn to my bookshelf.
Okay.
And I will dig out one of my books. Or I will go to a bookshop and find, a book by someone that I know and like or trust or whatever. Or I will ask for recommendations, or I will be learning from somebody whose email list that I might be on. And I will be like, oh, okay, so what are they recommending? What articles have they got? And you can go and do that. But I will always, if I want to know a lot about a subject, like Google is my first port of call, often.
For your kind of casual curiosity
level.
My
casual curiosity level, yeah. And then I will be like, right, I want to know more about this specific part of this that Google is kind of giving me loads of stuff about. And that's when I'm like, okay, so I want to sit down and read a book. And the act of reading a book, I think, is really important. It's different from just consuming stuff on the internet.
There's absolutely a different psychological value attached to it, isn't there?
I think so, yeah. Because Google, like I say, is a fantastic reference tool. Wikipedia is a great reference tool. As long as you're using Wikipedia as a starting point for other things and you're not like, oh, it says so on Wikipedia, so it must be true. And that's not even, you can still get useful stuff off Wiki. But it's a really good reference tool. But when you want to learn really deeply about a subject, a well-written book is much better. It's much more effective. You can, when you're doing that as an author, as somebody who wants to write a book, you can gather all of the relevant information together in stories and essays and order it logically. So I don't have to meander aimlessly through the internet trying to find what I need and piece it together myself. And I think that's another key as well. It's like, okay, yeah, there's loads of useful information on the internet, but it's like, what is the best order for me to consume it in to get the most out of it?
Has it been curated by somebody into a sensible, digestible, well-reasoned collection of stuff? Yeah.
Make it easy for me to learn what I want to know, basically, what I need to know. And a well-written book does that. And the other problem with the internet is that any muppet can write an article that seems authoritative. Anybody can publish on the internet, which is great, but also it's not great. And anybody can...
Same with Wikipedia. You can just go wild in there if you want to.
Yeah, I know. And so you've got to look at the sources on Wikipedia. Where are they getting their information from? What are the references and the cited sources? But yeah, and people can just regurgitate other stuff from online as well without fact checking it and just claim it as their own information. And way back in the mists of time, I did that with a statistic. I was in a real big hurry when I was writing my first book. I was a dick. I was in a real big hurry, and I just quoted this statistic. I later found out that it was a total fiction, and it's like. And I remember kind of justifying it to myself. I was like, well, it's probably about right. And you know what? It probably isn't far off, but that's not the point. This is not the point.
Still unverifiable.
Well, no, it's verifiably made up.
Oh, verifiably made up.
Yeah, I was super embarrassed, and I'm still embarrassed about that. But hey, you learn from the mistakes that you made. I'm kind of laughing with it. It's like, don't do that. I would never do that now.
So anybody who wants to read about that, it's in Vicky's first book. Buy it, read it.
It's not in the second edition of it because I corrected it.
So you've got to get one of the rare first editions.
I corrected that shit. And I think I've written articles about it as well, so you can probably have a look on my blog and you will find me opening my shame diary and being like, here's how I fucked up. Don't you do it. So yeah, there's a lot of information flying around for free, which is awesome, but it comes with its own problems, some of which we've just been through. Another one is, how do I know the author of the article that I've just found actually knows what they're talking about? We're back to the whole, anyone can publish anything on the internet.
Yeah.
And the attribute, quotes attributed to George Washington about the internet, that kind of thing. And that's, those memes are funny and they're meant to be funny, but they illustrate something that's important. You can't just believe everything that you read on the internet, and you shouldn't anyway. You should be, every time you read something that reinforces a deeply held belief that you've got, question it. Go and look for stuff that disagrees with you. Go and look for where they got their information from. And if you're sharing, if people are sharing their sources and they're like, well, that's like a thing against organic food, but it's paid for by big pharma, or vice versa, big agriculture. And it's like, oh, well, that's a thing against big agriculture, but it's paid for by a Whole Foods, the giant corporation that is Whole Foods in America. And people are like, oh, big agriculture is all about corporate. And it's like, Whole Foods, they make billions, So you've got to kind of look at both sides of it and think, where is this information coming from, and what are the biases of the people who have written it? And that goes for books as well.
I was going to say, so what's the differentiation between a random book that you buy on Amazon and some nonsense you dragged out of the bowels of the internet?
Well, that's a really good point, and I would like to think, and this is, I guess this is the difference between the kind of book that I want people to write and that I teach people to write, and the kind of book that is just thrown together in the space of a weekend.
Right.
I would like to think that the books I read are by people who are experts in their field and who have got a bibliography at the end, because that's one of the things that I will look at when I buy a book, is like I will look at the references and I'll look at I won't necessarily read every single one of them, but I will look at the sources and be like, okay, so that's come from there and that's come from there and that's come from that research paper, and and if the sources that they're citing are, seem to me as a layperson
somebody's blog
reasonable, so, yeah, it's not just somebody's blog, then that's I don't know, I guess that's going to be, and you can do that with articles as well, but my point is that the internet is just filled with a deluge of crap. And there's so much of it, it's difficult to wade through. I would like to think, this is maybe me just being really, rose-tinted glasses or something, but I would like to think that books are generally of a higher standard. I know that's not true across the board, I know it's not. Yeah,
there's more thought put into them. I guess as well, for me, if your book looks amateurish, if the cover's not right and if the spacing's not right and the indents and all that kind of stuff just don't work. They got the page number in the wrong way around and chapters start on the wrong side and all that kind of stuff that kind of says this is an amateur's book. Then that kind of loses credibility with me as well.
Yeah, and that's rightly or wrong, which is a shame, because if the content is really good, it's a real shame that it's been let down by.
Yeah, but that's a skill, isn't it? That's necessary. That you need to know that stuff and get on it. Yeah,
you need to put time into figuring out. By the way, that is something that I talk about in my book, is how to not look like an amateur.
Funny that.
It's really important. So yeah, but another reason to write a book, even though there is stuff available on the internet for free, is that, your book gives me a chance to get to know you, and it gives you a chance to show me that you're an expert, because rightly, whatever you think about whether you agree with the content of somebody's book, they know enough to write a whole book out of it, and so even if it's something that you thoroughly disagree with, then they at least have enough knowledge to put all of that down in a
60,000
book.
60,000 words on paper.
Yeah, and that doesn't always hold true. I have read 60,000 words of utter tosh before, like incoherent tosh, not just factually incorrect. But yeah, it shows me that you are an expert in your field, at least to a certain degree. So I wouldn't say for a second that I was an expert marketer when I wrote Business for Superheroes, but I was an expert new business owner who didn't know what the hell she was doing. And that's why I wrote that book, because there weren't many books written by new business owners who didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, it's the story of your new business, really, isn't it?
It was, yeah, and the story of how I went from... And, I look back on some of the stuff in that book and I cringe. I mean, there's loads of useful stuff still in there. I know there is, because people tell me that they've read it and they've used it and they've got results from it. But I look back on some of the stuff that I said now and I'm like, whew, there's going to be a new edition that changes, because some of it is not.
But then, I don't know. I mean, if you're writing that book from the point of view of a new business owner, and then 10 years later you go back and tidy up the rough edges, and I think it's fair enough to say, footnote. Yeah. I've changed my mind on this bit, but I wouldn't delete it.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's a separate edition. It's an updated edition. I think that's reasonable. It's like, but I might put in the appendix, this is what I used to think.
Yeah.
So
that's fair.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, your book gives me a chance to get to know you, and people read books all over the place. They read them in bed, in the bath, on the toilet. They don't get much more intimate than that, and there is no faster way of building a relationship outside actually meeting in person. And you can't meet everybody. You just can't do it. So that, all of this stuff on the internet is a faceless, random search results kind of thing, and it can be amazing, but I don't build a relationship with an article on the internet usually. It takes a long time, and I do read articles from people on the internet, and I'm on their email lists, and I follow what they say and I learn from them, and I really like them, but that takes time. It takes quite a lot of time to build up to that, and it takes like weeks, months, sometimes even years of reading people's stuff before I decide I want to buy from them. Whereas if I read their book, quite often I'll be like, there, sold,
Yeah.
I've read the book, I trust you, this is great, I'm gonna buy it. Shut up and take my money, kind of thing. And that's how it works. Not everybody's going to read your book and want to pay you lots of money. That's not the way this works. This is about kind of finding the right people for you. And so it's just really important that you're not relying on, or that you don't use this as an excuse not to write a book, that it's all available on the internet for free. It's a totally different experience. The internet is there for something different than reading a book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're in a different frame of mind. You mentioned it earlier, in a different psychological frame of mind.
There's a lot more value in a book. You've paid money, you bought the thing, you're invested in it. Even if it's a couple of quid, you've invested in it.
Yeah.
And the time you put to one side to read this book is an investment. Yeah. Whereas kind of knocking around on the internet is almost wasting your time, isn't it?
And you're normally in a learning mindset when you're reading a book as well. And you're not always on, when you're scrolling on the internet, you've got loads of tabs open. It's like, I know my attention is fractured and I find it very difficult to concentrate. Yeah. So you're in a different mindset. And also the internet is fleeting. Books are lasting. They last forever.
It's on your shelf. You've got it.
Yeah. They're a reminder of knowledge and power and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, people start by looking for information, but they want to be led by somebody, and a book will enable you to do that, I think. So
nice.
Yeah. What's the takeaway, Joe?
Takeaway, information is available online for free, but that's not what people are looking for. They're looking for a leader, and your book can do that.
Yeah. And we are now doing a new thing where we are reading out awesome reviews from our listeners, and we are reading today from Alex Wardle, the video guy extraordinaire. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
And he wrote this way back in October 2016, and he gave us 5 stars because he's amazing. And he said, eager to learn, click play. What else did he say, Joe?
He said, I've been binging on Vicky and Joe's podcast like an addictive. Oh man, I can't read. I've been binging on Vicky and Joe's podcast like an addictive Netflix drama. There's no fluff to be found here. The Business for Superheroes podcast is packed full of actionable tips, advice and words of wisdom from someone who's been there and bought the t-shirt. It manages to be serious and entertaining, and it feels like you're around Vicky's place for a drink and a chat about business. It pretty much is exactly that.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. So if you would like to be read out on our podcast, then leave us a review. We love them. And we'll give your business a little plug. Alex is great. Alex Wardle, the video guy, he is a really great videographer. He's got a great video business. He will teach you how to use video to grow your business. And he's written a book, funnily enough, using my book, using my help in the past, called Grow Your Business Fast with Video. I think I've probably got that title totally wrong. But yeah, Alex Wardle. Thanks, Alex.
Link in the footnotes.
Yeah. Right, next week, more writing excuses. Next time, we are going to be talking about how I don't know enough to write a book.
Well, that's easily dismissed, isn't it?
We are going to dismantle that for you next week. In the meantime, you can get on the waiting list for my Blank Page to Book in 90 Days course. So it's very exciting. It starts on August 3rd. You can join the waiting list, and I'm opening it for registrations in a couple of weeks. And it's moxiebooks.co.uk/90-day book course live, all one word, and the link's down there. If you've listened to every episode, email me with your postal address, and I will send you a special superfan gift.
Nice.
Yeah. And we'll be back sometime next week. Thanks, Joe.
No worries.
Bye.
Bye.